Somewhere beneath Antarctica, a submarine crew screamed a single word before vanishing forever, and the ice just gave that word back to us. I still can't decide if we should have listened. I was on a resupply flight above the Ross ice shelf when the pilot banked hard and pointed at the floe below. A distress buoy, bright orange, no barnacles, no rust, bobbing in a fresh melt pool like it had been dropped yesterday. The pilot muttered something about phantom markers and pulled out his phone, but the GPS showed nothing there. Nothing. Like the buoy had never been cataloged. We landed, skis skidding across packed snow. The wind tasted of metal and ozone. I knelt, glove brushing the buoy's flank, and felt a low hum, like touching a speaker cable that's still live. Stenciled on the curve, stark black, S47. No registry, no flag, no date. Just that cryptic code and a little rubber plug labeled "Do not open except in event of loss." Loss of what? The buoy? The boat? The crew? I pried the plug. Inside, a palm-sized magnetic tape cartridge, the kind they used on Cold War subs. The plastic was still warm. I swear it was warm, like it had been breathing. Back at McMurdo, the comms tech slid the tape into an old reel-to-reel he kept for nostalgia. Static, then a hiss like sand scouring steel. A voice, calm at first. Station 47, log entry, February 14th, 2024. Same day we found the buoy. The coincidence tasted like copper. For 27 minutes we listened. Routine chatter, depth checks, battery levels, ice thickness. Then the tone shifted. The captain's voice cracked. We see it again. Same bearing, same range. It's closer. Closer. The sonar operator whispered a frequency no living animal makes, a note that made the speakers rattle. I felt it in my sternum. The tape kept rolling. Crew members started counting down. 17 seconds, 16, each number softer, like they were backing away from the microphone. At 3 seconds left, every voice overlapped, not shouting, not screaming, just a single word spoken in perfect unison, the way choir boys hit the same note. But the word wasn't in any language I know. It scraped the inside of my skull, a consonant cluster that felt wet. Then, dead air. Not static. Absolute silence, as if the ocean itself had closed its mouth. The tape flapped loose. The tech stared like he'd seen a ghost. I asked him to play the last 3 seconds again, slower. He rewound, hit play. The same syllable, slower now. Sounded like someone pulling a root from frozen soil. I laughed because my brain didn't know what else to do. Then I realized the hut was colder. My breath fogged. The windows had iced over from the inside. I took the tape, sealed it in a plastic bag, and filed the incident under environmental anomaly. Bureaucracy loves vague labels. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, the word looped behind my eyelids, growing teeth. The next morning, the buoy was gone. The melt pool had refrozen, no crack, no drag marks, just a perfect circle of virgin ice and the faint smell of ozone. I asked the pilot if he'd moved it. He looked at me like I'd asked him to move the moon. No flight logs showed a pickup. No cargo manifest listed S47. It had never existed, except for the tape in my coat pocket. I'm telling you this because tonight the word followed me here. I caught myself humming it while brushing my teeth. Didn't even notice until the mirror fogged and the syllables wrote themselves in the condensation. 3 perfect characters I can't pronounce, yet I know exactly how they taste. Clears throat. I've played the tape for linguists, for naval intelligence, for a guy on Reddit who claims he speaks dolphin. They all go pale. Some excuse themselves mid-sentence. One ran to the latrine and didn't come back. The file is still on my laptop, labeled, "Do not play." I played it again an hour ago, just to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. The room dropped 10 degrees and the lights flickered in rhythm with the word. I don't know what Station 47 found under the ice, but I know the ice is listening now. And I think it's learning to say the word back. I slammed the laptop shut, heart still jackhammering against my ribs. The word, whatever that word was, had stopped, but the echo kept crawling around inside my skull like frost spiders. I I needed proof this wasn't some elaborate prank, so I did what any self-respecting insomniac does at 3 in the morning. I called in favors, old favors, the kind that come with blood on the envelope. 24 hours later, a courier left a dented metal briefcase on my doorstep. No knock, no footprints in the snow, just the case humming faintly, as though something inside was dreaming. Inside were 3 redacted folders and a cassette labeled Leviathan, March 3rd, 94. Do not duplicate. Yeah, like that ever works. The first page felt radioactive between my fingers. Project Leviathan wasn't listed in any congressional budget, yet it had swallowed $68 million in black ink. The vessel herself, because submariners always call them she, was forged from Soviet surplus titanium, the same alloy they used for the deepest spy subs during the Cold War. 78 meters of silent muscle, no registry number, no name on the hull, just a single white stripe, painted like a grinning shark. Crew manifest listed 34 souls, 12 engineers, 8 acoustic specialists, 6 naval divers, 4 intelligence officers, 2 civilian glaciologists, 1 linguist, Dr. Mara Ellison, and a commander whose signature was nothing but a jagged line that hurt to look at directly. Their launch point wasn't a dock. It was a freshly melted borehole, 200 meters wide, punched straight through the Ross ice shelf. The cavern beneath had been codenamed Station 47 only the week before, when satellite thermals revealed a cathedral-sized pocket of open water where solid ice had stood for 10,000 years. Someone high up decided that geothermal vents might hide mineral deposits, or something worse, and Leviathan was lowered into that dark cathedral like a silver bullet into a lung. The second folder contained sonar logs. The sub descended through black water, so cold it burned, pinging the walls every 30 seconds. Each echo came back cleaner, tighter, until the cavern narrowed into a throat. Depth gauge froze at 800 meters. Literally, the needle iced over. But the dive computer kept scrolling. 900, 1,000, 1,200. Impossible. That's bedrock depth. Yet the titanium hull creaked and kept going, chasing a heat plume that registered 40 degrees warmer than the surrounding water. 40 degrees. That's a jacuzzi in the middle of an ice age. Try selling that to a physicist without getting laughed out of the room. At 0214 GMT on March the 3rd, Commander Jagged Line sent a burst transmission, 32 seconds long, compressed into a single data packet. I've played it 100 times now. It starts with routine depth calls. Then Dr. Ellison's voice cuts in, calm but rushed. We have phonetic match. Repeat, we have phonetic match. Then she says the word. Same one from my Buoy recording, only now it's crystal clear, like someone speaking directly into your ear while you sleep. The last 8 seconds are chaos. Alarms, metal shearing, a sound like 1,000 champagne bottles opening at once, and beneath it all, a low, satisfied hum that vibrates my sternum, even through cheap earbuds. Transmission ends. No mayday, no coordinates, just the hum swallowing everything. The third folder is the kicker. Rescue sub launched 48 hours later. Log says they found the cavern sealed, water refrozen solid and 2 days flat. No borehole, no titanium shark, no crew. Only a single heat signature still glowing on infrared. A perfect circle, 30 meters wide, pulsing like a heartbeat. Rescue team drilled a test core. The ice inside that circle is different. Older, denser, laced with metal fibers that bend drill bits like warm taffy. One petty officer sliced his glove reaching for a sample and swears the ice bled. Not red, clear, like liquid crystal. He's in psychiatric now. Hasn't spoken since. I set the cassette down, but the hum is still here. In the room with me. I can feel it in the fillings of my teeth. Tomorrow, I'm flying south. Commercial flight to Christchurch, then hitching a ride with a supply convoy. Because yesterday, the circle started growing, 1 meter wider every hour, and at the center, the ice has begun to sing. Same 3 syllables, same impossible frequency, drifting up through 2 miles of frozen silence. The word is almost complete now. I don't think it's a distress call anymore. I think it's an invitation. And Station 47, it's not under the ice. It is the ice. I landed on the Ross ice shelf with the taste of copper in my mouth, and the hum of that word still vibrating in my molars. Christchurch had been a blur of coffee and paperwork, but the moment the Hercules props cut to idle, the cold slapped me so hard my fillings sang the same 3 syllables. The crew chief just stared when I dropped my duffel and pressed my glove to the snow. It was warmer than it should have been, almost feverish, like the planet itself had a temperature. They flew me straight to the forensics lab, a shipping container welded to the ice and painted the same shade of orange as a lifeboat. Inside, 2 acoustic engineers hunched over a reel-to-reel the size of a suitcase. They didn't greet me, just slid headphones across the table. The tape was labeled in grease pencil, Station 47, last transmission 27 minutes, no date. When I asked why they hadn't digitized it, the older one, Johansson, lifted the reel to the fluorescent light and showed me the edge. Frost, creeping inward like ivy, sealing the magnetic ribbon in a lattice of white. I slid the headphones on. The first 90 seconds were just the ocean breathing against the hull, long, metallic sighs that made the hair on my neck stand up. Then came footsteps. Not boots, but bare feet, slapping steel in no hurry at all. Johansson tapped my shoulder and pointed to the waveform. Each footfall left a ghost print, a second print half a second late, like someone invisible walked just behind the first. At 3 minutes, water began to drip. Steady, surgical, 1 drop every 4.7 seconds. The engineers swore the sub was dry docked when this was recorded. I kept listening. By 6 minutes, the footsteps stopped, replaced by something I felt more than heard. Morse, but not quite. The dots and dashes slurred, stretching into vowels that tasted like salt. I scribbled what I could, da, die, da, then a long hiss that made the headphones vibrate. Johansson leaned in and whispered, "It keeps changing speed, like it's learning." At 18 minutes and 47 seconds, the sonar pinged. A single tone, high C, pure and clean. Then it curved. I swear on every saint I don't believe in, the pitch slid down a perfect fifth and settled into the rhythm of a human heart. Lub-dub, lub-dub, slow, maybe 50 beats a minute. The engineers froze. On the scope, the heartbeat wasn't coming from outside the hull. It was inside the control room, 2 meters left of the microphone. I pulled 1 cup away, suddenly dizzy. The heartbeat kept growing, louder, wetter, until the metal walls themselves seemed to flex. 23 minutes in, the drip stopped. Absolute silence for 11 agonizing seconds. Then every voice on the sub, 6 distinct accents, I counted, dropped to the same hush, the same pitch. Vegal, they said, all together, like a choir breathing one word. I replayed it at half speed, quarter speed, ran it through phonetic filters. The closest I got was a throat clear and a swallowed scream. The linguist on loan from McMurdo just shook her head and packed her notes. She left that night on the first flight out. 24 minutes and 11 seconds. That's when the whisper repeats, only now it's layered. 6 voices, then 12, then hundreds, all whispering the same syllables, out of sync, until the tape itself begins to stutter. The frost on the reel cracked audibly, a spider web snapping in the cold. The heartbeat doubles, triples, until it's a drum roll, and then the sound of ice forming, not cracking, not popping, but growing, crystalline fingers scratching their way across metal, across plastic, across silence itself. It's delicate and relentless, like someone etching a name on every surface at once. The tape doesn't end, it just stops. No click, no static. The last waveform is a perfect, expanding hexagon, the exact shape of a snowflake under a microscope. I stared at that screen until my eyes watered, waiting for the next beat, the next breath. Nothing. Johansson reached past me and lifted the reel. Frost had sealed the final foot solid. When he cracked it open, the ribbon inside was gone, sublimated, they said, turned straight from solid to gas without bothering to melt, as if the recording had never existed. I stepped outside to clear my head. The sky was a sheet of black glass, stars so sharp they drew blood. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Station 47 was still singing, 1 meter wider every hour. I pressed my palm to the snow again. This time it was colder than space, and underneath the surface I felt it. The same hexagonal pulse, the same heartbeat, growing outward like a bruise. Tomorrow they're flying in thermal charges, planning to melt a shaft straight down and drop a camera. I already know what it will see. The same word, carved in ice 6 miles deep, waiting to be read aloud. The thermal charges went down at dawn. I stood on the ice with the others, watching the orange cones hiss and sink like dying suns. The camera followed, unspooling fiber optic cable behind it like a metallic umbilical. 6 miles of ice, and somewhere inside that frozen cathedral, the word waited. We all leaned toward the monitor, breath fogging the plastic. Nothing. Just black, then deeper black, then a sudden bloom of pale blue that made everyone step back. The camera had reached the cavern, and the cavern was empty. I remember the silence that followed. 30 years of classified sonar sweeps, ROV dives, seismic tomography, all of it amounting to this: a hole the exact shape of a submarine, 78 meters long, carved so precisely you could trace the curve of the sail with your fingertip. But no hull, no debris field, no oil slick. Just absence wearing the costume of presence. The lead technician dropped his tablet. It shattered on the ice like a dropped mirror. He didn't even flinch. They flew in more equipment after that. Ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, even a quantum gravimeter, so sensitive it could detect the mass of a single snowflake falling 3 kilometers away. The readings came back perfect, too perfect. The void had no mass, no density, no gravitational signature. It was less than empty. It was antimatter pretending to be ice. I watched the senior analyst run the numbers 3 times before she finally whispered, "This isn't a hole. It's a memory." The cavern from '94, the one we mapped with sonar pings and good intentions, was gone. Not collapsed, not filled. Gone, like someone had taken an eraser to the planet and rubbed up the edges.
But here's the part that kept me awake for 3 nights straight. The ice layers above the void were older than the submarine, much older. The silhouette was pressed into ice that had been forming for 50,000 years, layer upon layer of compressed snow recording the shape of a machine that wouldn't exist for another 40 millennia. Time, it seemed, had folded itself into a Mobius strip and tied our present to a past that hadn't happened yet. They brought in psychologists after the second week. Standard protocol when personnel start reporting impossible things. But I wasn't hallucinating when I pressed my ear to the ice and heard the engines turning over. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat. Like the station itself was breathing through 78 meters of missing steel. The sound wasn't coming from below. It was coming from the shape. From the absence. From the memory of something that refused to stay forgotten. The thermal charges had melted a shaft straight down, but the shaft was already refreezing. Not gradually. Instantly. Like the ice was hungry, like it wanted to swallow the evidence. I watched the last meter disappear in less than a minute, the hole closing with a sound like teeth snapping shut. And in that final moment, before the surface became seamless again, I saw something that made my knees buckle. A reflection. Not of me, not of the sky. A reflection of the submarine, whole and intact, sliding backward through the ice like a film played in reverse. The hull was pristine. No rust, no damage. The conning tower light was on, and inside the bridge, I swear I saw figures moving. Not quite human, not quite anything. The aurora flared overhead then, green fire rippling across the stars, and for one impossible second, the entire ice sheet became translucent. I could see the submarine silhouette everywhere at once, beneath my feet, under the station, stretching out to the horizon in every direction. 78 meters of negative space, multiplying like a virus, like the ocean itself was learning how to forget. We want to drill again tomorrow. Bring in the big equipment. Melt a hole wide enough to lower a man down there. But I already know what they'll find. The same thing we've always found. The same thing we'll keep finding until the ice decides it's tired of remembering. The station is still singing, by the way, 1 meter wider every hour, and somewhere in that growing bruise, the word is still waiting. The same word carved 6 miles deep. The same word we're all too afraid to read aloud.
I think it's almost time to speak it. The station is still singing, 1 meter wider every hour, and the word is still waiting. I haven't slept since the last drill. The walls pulse like lungs, and every time I close my eyes, I hear it. Vekal, rolling over the snow like distant thunder. They flew in linguists first, then cryptographers, then trauma specialists who swore they could coax meaning from nightmares. None of them lasted 2 nights. One tried to leave by snowcat at dawn. The tracks ended in a perfect circle, engines still idling, door open, footprints swallowed whole. We stopped pretending this was about language. This was about resonance. The breakthrough came from the one person nobody thought to call, Dr. Mara Ellison, glaciologist, fresh off a 6-month mapping mission on the Ross Shelf. She arrived with nothing but a battered spectroscope and a thermos of something that smelled like burnt coffee and regret. First thing she did was kneel on the ice, press her bare ear to it, and hum. Just hum. Said the sheet was telling her its favorite song. When we played the recording for her, 27 minutes of muffled screaming and that single repeated word, her eyes went wide, then soft, then terrified. She said the phonemes matched the exact resonance frequency of Antarctic ice under tectonic stress. Vekal wasn't a word. It was a tuning fork the size of a continent. We rigged the borehole speakers to 144 decibels, louder than a jet engine, loud enough to liquefy your organs if you stood too close. Safety protocols became suggestions. I remember the cold biting through 6 layers of thermal weave as we lowered the mic array. The ice groaned like it recognized us. We pressed play. The word rolled down the shaft, deeper than any drill had ever reached. And then, the ice answered. Same cadence, same pitch, same impossible syllables, but coming from kilometers below, traveling up through crystal lattices older than humanity. It was a conversation, and we were the ones who'd interrupted. Only it wasn't angry. It sounded relieved, like it had been waiting for someone to finally speak back. The echo lasted 43 seconds. During every one of them, the station lights dimmed to candle flicker. Instruments spun to their maximum readings and snapped their needles. My teeth vibrated so hard, I tasted blood. When the sound finally died, the silence was heavier than any blizzard. Then, the walls began to sweat, actual droplets forming on steel that had never seen temperatures above -10. The word was still down there, but now it had company. I swear I heard other syllables forming, slower, like aftershocks. Feikal, Kalthu, Thrivren. But grammar, a sentence, a story older than the ice itself. Mara ran the spectrogram again. The frequency had shifted by exactly 3 hertz, 3 heartbeats of the planet. She said that shift indicated a tectonic event already in motion. Not an earthquake, a song, a lullaby maybe, or a summons. She packed her gear that night, told me the ice was pregnant with something, and we'd just announced the baby shower. I asked her what she thought would happen if we played it louder. She looked at me like I'd asked whether dynamite could taste fear. Then she handed me her thermos and walked into the storm without a coat. We never found her body. We never found her footprints. Just the thermos, sitting upright on the helipad, steam still curling from the lid. I'm alone now. The others left after the second playback, said they heard voices in the static between stations, calling them by childhood nicknames. One guy swore his dead mother whispered recipes through the emergency radio. I stayed, because someone has to record what happens when the ice finally sings its final note. The borehole is widening on its own now. No drill, no heat, just pure resonance carving perfect circles into the crust. The word is no longer waiting. It's climbing. I can feel it in the fillings of my teeth, in the plates of my skull. Last night, the aurora pulsed in syllables I almost understood. Vekal, 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 like a heartbeat, like a countdown. Tomorrow, I drop the volume to 160 decibels, enough to shatter glass, maybe enough to shatter time. I'll strap on the harness, lower myself into the throat of the world, and finally ask the question we've all been too terrified to voice. What happens when the ice remembers it was never ours to begin with? If you find this recorder, Don't follow the echo. Just leave the station to finish its song, because once the word reaches the surface, it won't need a mouth anymore. It'll have mine.
So here we are, at the end of the line, where the ice forgets to be solid. I dropped that recorder into the throat of the world, just like I promised. Felt the cable jerk twice, once when the harness caught, once when something down there tugged back. 34 names, remember? 34 souls erased with one slash of frost across the official manifest. But I kept the leaked photo, creased it small enough to hide inside my glove lining, next to the last warmth of my own pulse. The buoy went back into the water at 02:14 GMT, 4 May. Same minute, same second as the original SOS, only this time the voice, my voice, added one more word, delivered flat and calm, like ordering coffee. They're waiting. I didn't say it loud. I whispered it into the wind so the microphones would catch it, but my lips barely moved. They're waiting. Then I kicked the bright orange float over the edge and watched it bob once, twice, before the current swallowed it whole. Station 47 has been empty for years, they claim. Power's off, heating oil congealed into black wax, yet every window still glows that sick sodium yellow, like the bulbs remember the fear better than the wiring. I walked the main corridor anyway, boots crunching on rime that shouldn't exist indoors. Each footstep echoed back with an extra beat, as if 34 people walked just behind me, matching my stride, but never quite catching up. I stopped twice to count my own breaths, convinced one of them wasn't mine. Halfway to the comm shack, I found the fresh line of frost. It hadn't been there at 01:59. It ran straight across the floor, wall to wall, thin as paper and sharp as gilt. I knelt, touched it. Cold bit straight through the glove and into bone. The line spelled nothing, yet I felt the names underneath, raised like scars. 34 pulses under my fingertip. I reached the radio set, dead, naturally. No power, no antenna. Just a metal corpse wearing headphones like a joke. Still, the moment I lifted them, the static sharpened into that same heartbeat. Ve-kal, ve-kal, ve-kal. Slower now, patient. I asked the question I'd rehearsed since Chapter 1. What happens when the ice remembers? The answer didn't come in words. It came as temperature. The room dropped so fast the moisture in my eyes flash froze into glassy specks I could feel clicking when I blinked. That's when the recorder in my pocket, the one I thought was empty, crackled to life. My own voice, but from 3 minutes in the future, said, "Don't turn around." I turned anyway. Nothing there but the frost line, now curving toward me like a smile. Behind it, footprints appeared, mine, but smaller, as if the snow had learned my gait and then decided to try it barefoot. I left the headphones dangling, stepped backward across the threshold, and felt the station exhale. Not wind, not machinery, just a building breathing out 34 held breaths at once. The frost line followed, slow and polite, like a butler showing me to the exit. Outside, the buoy had already resurfaced a mile out, blinking its orange distress in perfect sync with my pulse. I didn't wave. I didn't salute. I simply walked the other way, boots printing fresh tracks that filled with shadow the moment I lifted them. They say sound travels farther in cold air. Maybe that's why the last transmission still circles the planet, bouncing off satellites nobody admits are listening. If you tune to 2:14 GMT on any given night, you'll hear me, older, calmer, whisper that same addendum. They're waiting. No coordinates, no explanation, just the invitation. I mailed the photo to an editor who will redact it again. I mailed my gloves to a museum that will mislabel them. And I mailed this final chapter to you, whoever you are, wherever the ice has yet to reach. When the frost line knocks at your door, and it will, remember, you were warned. The station is quiet now, lights finally dimmed. The buoy keeps blinking, steady as a lighthouse for ghosts. And beneath the ice, 34 heartbeats count down in perfect silence, learning your name one syllable at a time. They're waiting. They always were. And the only thing colder than the water is the moment you decide to answer.